Prepare your entry for the 2014 marketing competition. First, I'd like to thank our MCA sponsors this year. We have McGraw Construction, Deltec, Wallace Engineering, Flintco, Manhattan Construction, and Tech Inc. Today, our panelists are the 2014 MCA Committee members. First, we have our committee co-chair, Jana Monforte, Associate Marketing Business Development for Wallace Engineering in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and who will be hosting this year's judging day. We also have MCA Committee co-chair, Lee Jarboe, Director of Client Services with McCarthy Building Companies in Atlanta, Georgia. We also have last year's committee chairs, Bernice Bako, who is the Director of National Marketing with Turner in Dallas, Texas. We also have Michael McCann, Director of Business Development with D.S. Gibson Architects in New York City. We also have next year's committee chair, Dawn Wyford, Marketing Specialist with Shook Construction in Dayton, Ohio. And we have Adam Kilborn, Director of Marketing with Tech Inc., Engineering and Design, who has been our 2013 member of our jury panel, as well as 2012 and I believe also 2011. My name is Molly DeLerta. I am the MCA Program Director at SMPS Headquarters here in Alexandria, and I'll be moderating today's program. First, I'd like to go over some housekeeping notes real quick. If everyone will notice on your control panel, you have the option to open and close your panel using the orange arrow button. You may also select your audio mode if you choose to ask a question. We will be taking questions at the end of this session, and we definitely welcome everyone to do so. You can do so by asking it over the phone, or you may also type your question in the question box and submit it that way, and we'll be asking those questions out again at the end of the session. And also, please don't forget that we are recording today's session, so we will be sending this link out as a reminder once it is online at our national website, which is smps.org/MCA. To get started, I'd like to introduce Jana, who is going to go over our webinar agenda as well as some overviews regarding the program and also some things to consider moving forward. Jana? Everyone's voice. Hello? Hello, Jana?
Are we on? Hello?
Can you hear me, Jana?
Yeah, now I can. Okay.
Okay.
Is it my turn? Sorry, everything went mute. I'm sorry.
No.
Okay,
You're right there.
Okay, great. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. The agenda, I'm going to go over an overview of the MCA program and then why enter the MCA program. We'll go over common entry submittal mistakes, how to assemble the entry binder, how best to include your exhibits and samples, the entry deadline dates. We'll go over the checklist, and then we'll take your questions, as Molly said, near the end. The Marketing Communications Awards program is the longest running awards program of its kind, and it's in its 37th year this year. It recognizes excellence in marketing communications for professional services firms in the design and building industry. There's 21 categories this year, again, and all details can be found online at smps.org/MCA. Many of you probably know my longtime friend and boss, Brad Thurman, who is currently serving as our SMPS National President. I was really excited when he asked if I would be interested in co-chairing the 2014 MCA program alongside Lee Jarboe this year. And Brad and I, we work at Wallace Engineering. We're a structural and civil engineering firm that do work nationwide, and we're located in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So we're going to be the host firm this year for Judging Day. We'll host Judging Day in early April, and it's a day-long event. The judging is done in person, and it's hosted at a different city every year. The jury pool is unique every year and is made up of local clients, service providers, and senior-level SMPS members. Each category is judged by a team of at least 3 jurors, and each entry is reviewed by the individual team jurors, and then they collaborate on the final score.
Thank you, Jana. And now we have our other co-chair, Lee Jarbo, who will go over the top 10 reasons to enter the MCA competition, as well as categories and common mistakes when entering. Lee? Okay, I think she's having some audio difficulties, so I'm going to go ahead and go over these real quick with you guys. The MPA program, which of course we just stated, recognizes the excellence in marketing communications in the design and building industry, offers you and your firm recognition and visibility in the AEC community, expert feedback on your marketing projects, inspiration for future campaigns, competitive intelligence on AEC marketing best practices, national media attention, as well as enhancement of your personal brand as a MarCom professional. We have a total of 21 categories. It is the same category listings that we had for last year. We are not going to go into detail over every single category, but please know that category definitions as well as requirements for these categories are listed on the SMPS website. You will see the URL at the bottom is the direct link. This will give you a detailed information on each category individually. We do have separate requirements for the categories depending upon which one you're entering. Some require a certain number of samples versus others. Just a couple quick fun facts. Our larger categories in the past few years have been, of course, the holiday piece, website. Last year, video was one of our larger categories, and it's also one of our newer categories. For those of you looking for maybe a better percentage of chance of winning, our smaller categories in the past have been annual report, social media, and also magazine. So that's just a real quick snapshot of our categories. Again, that information is listed on the SMPS website. The next quick topic I wanted to go over is the top 6 most common entry errors. This is just a short list of things that we tend to see over the years when people are putting their entries together, and we just wanted to nail those out real quickly in case anyone wanted to know if what we happen to see and what ways we can improve the submission process. One of the top things is forgetting to include the category number next to the entry description on the entry form. Bernice will be going over the entry form here shortly, and she can go show you the form so you can see what that looks like. The entry form is available, of course, on the website, available for download. It is a PDF form, so you can fill it out online and print it out. Another issue is putting multiple entries all into one binder. We do need one binder per entry. Another issue is forgetting to actually test the media. A lot of people will submit, of course, CDs and DVDs containing the contents of their submissions, whether it be a video or a web address or screenshots, things like that, or a flash drive that may include a presentation, but they fail to test the media on a computer to make sure that it plays correctly when loaded. Another issue is media that contains PDFs of printed materials. The jurors only need the printed pieces. You don't need to make copies of items. You can just include the actual pieces. You don't have to include additional PDFs of the printed materials. Bernice will go into a little bit more detail about the printed versus digital question that we often get. The fifth thing is omitting required information required from the clarification statement. We will be spending a great deal of time today discussing the clarification statement and making sure that you guys have a clear picture of what we're looking for. And we'll also have, of course, an opportunity for you to ask questions at the end of the presentation. Lastly is making sure that you submit a clarification. The clarification statement does not exceed the 2-page limit. We try to keep that to 2 pages. We have jurors looking at multiple entries. They don't have a lot of time to read through multiple pages of information, so we try to keep that down to 2 pages to help with the judging process. Okay, now we're going to switch over to Bernice, who's going to discuss preparing the entry form for your submission. Bernice?
Hi, Molly. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Thank you.
Okay, great. That was a great overview about actually putting together your binder and your entry form. I suggest that if you can, go to the website, visit this, pull this video down, print out that page, and let that be your last mile checklist as you're about to put your entry into the mail. Molly, I am going to speak off of this. I do not have video, so bear with me for a second.
Sure.
Okay, there we go.
Right now I have the entry form up.
Okay, I've got it now. So what you're seeing here is the entry form. As you can envision, SMPS is fortunate enough to get hundreds of submissions for the SMPS MCA Awards. The competition is stiff. There's 21 categories. We average anywhere between 4 and 15 entries per category. What ends up happening is these entry forms all get sent to SMPS National, where they organize it. When it gets to its entry place, then it goes into a room for 4, 5, or 6 judges to actually look over them. That's why we advise so strongly that you do a really good job of putting together the mechanics of your entry form, because your entry form, and Molly's going to go over this shortly, it travels a long way in the time that it leaves your office and it gets to its location and right before it goes. So we really want to make sure that we help you along in filling these out. So you'll see on this form, what's really important is down here in the bottom third, you'll see where you put your categories. There's one entry per binder. That's really important to remember. So if you have a featured writing piece, if you have a holiday piece, if you have a magazine entry, then you're going to need to submit 3 separate binders, 3 separate entry forms. One entry form, 2 copies of that entry form in each binder. So you could put them all 3 together. If it's from one firm, just make sure that each binder has 2 copies, because in the case that your entries get detached, we want to be able to find it, and we want to be able to keep them together and make sure that they make it over to the judges. We have the print or the digital over here in the bottom right-hand corner. You'll see where you'll check whether it's print or digital. It's important to note that you only have to put one or the other. That's what the entry is going to be judged on. If, for example, there are like advertising, annual report, book or monograph, brochure, you may have a print piece as well as a digital piece. You go ahead and put both of them, but they will be awarded based on one of those. They may be judged on separately, so they'll either win the print piece, but the print version or the digital version will be awarded that. Is that correct, Molly? Did I say that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if we go to the next step, the next step is the check. Make sure that your check for your entry fee is included into your submission. Here you'll see that if a lot of people say that we're a small business, we do have small business rates. If you go to the next slide, you'll see that we follow the what is the table that's small business size standard. That is on the website. If you go to www.smps.org/recognition/MCA 2014 entry fees, you can see if you qualify for small entry fee. Regardless of small entry fee or large entry fee, it's very important that you put that check in the first page of the binder. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see that, we've already talked about this. If you can skip on to the next one. mark your entry fee. You put your entry form into the front part of the view binder, not inside, but in the front so that it becomes your cover for your binder. And then when you open your binder, your first page will have the second copy of your entry fee plus your check. It's very important that if you're going to pay by check, that you put that check inside the page, the inside of the binder, as well as the cover entry fee on the front binder. So you have two entry fee covers sheets, one on the outside, one on the inside, and your check, if you pay by check, on the inside cover.
Thank you, Bernice. That's perfect. And again, if anyone has any questions or any of this is confusing, we'll be answering questions at the end of the session. So we know it's a lot of information. We're just trying to get through it so we cover everything. Next, we have Michael, who will be covering putting together the table of contents and clarification statement for your binder. Do we have Michael?
Okay, thank you very much. If you can go, there's basically the first page, once you open the binder, should have the table of contents. And basically, there's two items. One is the clarification statement, which we're going to talk about shortly, and then exhibits. And with the exhibits, you know, try to list all the exhibits that you have in there. Some entries, like holiday card, you might just have one. Some, like corporate identity, you might have several, you know, the letterhead, examples of the logo, style sheets, a brochure, things like that are part of the corporate identity. So please list them. And as somebody who's been a juror for several years, one of the things is that being a juror is both very educational and very fulfilling, but it's also very intense. So the easier you make it for the jurors to find the information, the better it's going to be for you. So, you know, if you want it, there's a couple of examples coming up of a clarification statement. Again, this is a fairly straightforward clarification statement that's as you see, and another one. Both of these are actually entries that had one piece, but if you have several pieces in it, let's say you have a newsletter, internal newsletter, external newsletter, and you're showing the spring, summer, and fall issues, you might want to list them separately. Okay. And probably a very important part of the program is the clarification statement. If you go to the website, you'll see examples of the clarification statements. And as a juror, it's always I've judged quite a few times, and every entry, the first thing the judges do is read the clarification statement. That basically leads into the actual piece. It gives them a better understanding of what you're doing and why you're doing it. A suggested outline is available on the MCA website and include all the information requested. There are several pieces, and we'll go into it in a second. But again, as clear and as concise as possible, the better it is for your entry. Okay. This year we've have modified the judging criteria slightly, improving it and making it a little bit clearer. This is based on past experience and feedback. There's basically going to be 4 judging criteria: marketing objectives, content messaging, which is the actual message of the piece, content deliverables, which is the style and the graphics, and you know, for instance, a printed piece, what kind of paper you're using, and all these items, and then the results, you know, your feedback, your return on investment, and all this is listed on the website if you want it more specifically detailed. Okay. This is the form that's going to be used. It's going to be a 4-page form that has the specific items, and on each of these marketing objectives, you know, it's just as an example, you know, some of the things are your overall strategic objective was identified, specific time frame and budgets were established, methodologies for collecting and evaluating results were determined, and so forth. So we tried to make it a little bit clearer and a little bit more precise on what the information that you should be providing for us. So again, each of the categories, there's specific things. And here's an example. Again, it's 2 pages, double-sided. It will be the next page, the next sleeve after the table of contents, and probably best. They ask for 3 copies, so it's probably best to have each sleeve to have the front and the back kind of back-to-back. So when they open up the 3-ring binder and give it to the different judges, they'll have the whole thing in the sleeve. So they could look at the front and then look at the back and have all the information from your clarification statement. Just makes it a little bit easier on the judges. Okay?
Great. Thank you, Michael. That's I know a lot of information, and we'll be talking about the next big part, which is the exhibit and sample part. And to kind of give a better idea and understanding as far as why we require so much when it comes to this binder, the view binder, and how to put the submission, the actual samples in with your binder, we created a nice little handy chart that kind of gives you the life of your entry, because we do appreciate and value the amount of time that our interns put in putting their entries together. We take that very seriously. So we just want you to understand why we kind of have made these requirements so detailed, basically. First off, the entry comes to the SMPS headquarters, and of course we want it to arrive on or before March 17th. Once the entry is at headquarters, it's processed, entered into a database, and then it's packed up with other entries in that category, in the same category, for shipment to the judging locations. Once they're delivered to the judging location, it's checked for damage, and it's displayed, unpacked, put out neatly in a large area so that the judges can go through them on judging day easily and be able to open them up and see the actual samples without having to unwrap things. We actually do that for the judges just to help them, make sure that they have no problem opening your entry and finding the samples. The next thing is, once the finalists are selected, the entries are shipped back to the SMPS headquarters, and they're used actually for educational purposes. Additionally, finalists are required to ship to SMPS headquarters a presentation board that will be presented and displayed during the SMPS conference, which takes place in the end of July this year in San Antonio. The presentation boards and the first place entries are shipped to the conference location, and then the first place entries are reviewed by industry media, who also selects the best of show winner, who is announced the night of the awards gala. And the presentation boards are viewed by the conference attendees and are voted on to choose the People's Choice winner. The presentation boards and first place entries are then shipped back to U.S. headquarters, and we keep them in an archive in our library. If any of you have an opportunity to visit our national headquarters in Alexandria, you will see that we have them archived in our library. So just real quick, wanted to give you guys a snapshot of the life cycle of the entry, just so you understand kind of why we require the things we do. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Adam, who is going to go into how to put your exhibit and samples into your binder safely so it gets to us in one piece. Adam?
Thanks, Molly. So with your binders, the best way to package everything up is using the clear plastic sleeves that you can insert into your 3-ring binders. And as Michael explained, the clarification sheets are back-to-back. The other sheets, the other pieces, it kind of depends on what's going in there. If you can put them back-to-back and that makes sense, do that. Many of the categories require 3 copies of everything that goes in the binder. Again, that makes it easier for us as judges to distribute among our group to read through and look at the materials as we go through the scoring sheets. So you want to make sure everything is easy for us to pull out of the binder, packaged neatly and in order, it's organized, and things like CDs or other materials, odd-shaped materials, should be included but packaged so that they don't fall out. If you have larger materials like posters, if you attach them to the outside with rubber bands, that is acceptable and works for us. It allows us to transport them easily. And if you have other pieces that are larger, such as books, those can be rubber banded to the outside of the binder as well. So you just want to package everything up carefully. If it's fragile, you should probably wrap it. As Molly said, that everything gets transported around the country quite a bit, so the better you can prepare it, the better opportunity it has to arrive in one piece. For larger submittals, such as the corporate identity, you don't have to send all of the pieces for the judging. You can have a setup and get a nice photograph of everything kind of laid out, as the example on your screen shows you. So this is perfectly acceptable for larger categories where it's difficult to ship, everything as one piece. But you are welcome to ship things if you choose to. Items such as a PowerPoint presentation, you can print out pages that have the slides for your PowerPoint, so you don't actually have to put it on a disk if you choose not to. Again, that's an easier way for judges to go through and look at things. Now, if there's animations and things that are part of the program, then it may make sense to do a digital version of it. But for static slides, printed pages of your PowerPoints are perfectly acceptable.
Great. Thank you, Adam.
Sure.
Great. Okay. Well, now we have our 2015 MCA chair, who's a part of our committee, Dawn Wyford, and she's going to go over some important reminders regarding our deadlines and a checklist. Dawn?
Thanks, Molly. Our early bird deadline this year is March 3rd. If your entry is postmarked by then, you will also get a discount on your entry fee. Although for some of us marketing people, we're procrastinators, and this would be the last thing that we work on, so your final entry must be delivered to SMPS Headquarters in order to compete in this year's MCA is March 17th. For your convenience, there is a simple checklist to determine which projects or which entries you would like to submit. Think about what are your firm's most effective marketing projects for the past year, and make sure that your Marcom projects were completed between January 2012 and December 2013, so that you've got time to gather the results to enter into your clarification statements. Determine which category your project fits the best. If you've got any questions with this, always feel free to contact SMPS Headquarters, and they'll assist you with getting it into the correct category or the best category that fits that entry. Make sure you read the submittal requirements carefully and you don't skip anything. Download and complete your entry form, which is available on the URL that you saw previously in the slide on smps.org. Make sure your binder has clear plastic sleeves in it, and make sure that those are actually in the 3-ring binder and they're secure in there. We've had some that have slipped out and we're missing pieces of information when we're judging. Insert the entry form, both copies of it, into the binder so that we have the information that we need, as well as prepare your table of contents and insert it into the binder as well. When you write your clarification statement, as always, please proofread it correctly or carefully and make sure that you've entered everything in it correctly. Sometimes people have skipped a checklist or an item that they need to check mark, and that makes it very difficult as a juror to understand what we need to do with it. Insert 3 copies of the clarification statement front to back, and make sure that each one has its own plastic sleeve before you insert it into the binder. And as Adam said, it makes it easier as jurors to pull those 3 clarification statements out and divide them up amongst the jurors and get through it much quicker. Prepare your exhibits and your samples and insert those into the binder. Check your binder to make sure that you've followed all of the submittal requirements, and then make sure that you've mailed it and it arrives to SMPS Headquarters no later than March 17th, March 3rd if you want the early bird discount. Where can you find more information about the MCA program? Go to the smps.org MCA website. It's got all of the information, the entry form, You can dive into it a little deeper for the categories as well.
Great. Thank you, Dawn. I think that checklist is going to be very helpful. Again, this presentation is recorded and we'll have it available on that website. It will be located on that homepage. So for those of you that want to get a copy of that, you will have that information there. So now we're at our question portion of the webinar. So we have, it looks like we definitely have some time here to take people's questions. If you have any, please feel free to use your panel on the right side under the question area, and we'll get those questions and get some answers for you.
Sounds great. Thanks, Molly. We have a few questions already listed. We'll go ahead and take our first question at this time. How do we handle a joint entry between two firms? For example, if an architecture and engineering firm collaborate on a trade show piece.
That is a great question. What we do is we can actually have you enter as one entrant, and you would list both names on the actual entry form, so that the way I attack the entry form is think of it, who do I want to walk across the stage to get my award? A lot of times we'll have sometimes the marketing coordinators or marketing assistants putting the actual entry together, but they want the person recognized for the award. They may want their director of marketing or sometimes their CEO. It's important to include all the names of everyone that you would want recognized for winning the award. And we also have another section on the entry form where you can put the contact information for that particular entry if we have questions. So let's say the marketing person who put the entry together would be the one to contact if we need additional photos or if we need a copy of the clarification statement or if there's a question about the entry, we would need that information. But essentially, both firms would enter together. It would obviously be two different firm names, but we would need one contact as far as the notification, whether all notification letters, everyone who enters gets a notification letter, and that is sent to the contact information on the front of the entry form. So it is important that we have that correct information. And then we normally leave it up to the person on that entry form to notify, if you are doing a joint entry, to notify the other party the status of their entry.
Sounds great. We'll take our next question. Do we need to submit separate checks for each entry or just one check for all entries?
One check for all the entries.
Great. Okay, our next question. You were mentioning notification letters earlier, and when do notification letters go out?
That is a great question. Judging is going to take place the first weekend in April, and so we, by the time we get the entries back and the judging binders back and go through all the scoring and tabulate the scoring, we'd like to estimate that we'll have those out the last week of April. We will be posting an update on the SMPS website. If you need to get a more up-to-date status of that, we will put when we plan on getting those out. But just one word of caution or notification, we do actually do this via snail mail, which I know a lot of people kind of grumble about, but because we have the actual score sheets going out with the score as well as the notification letters, and then we actually have more information that needs to go out to the finalists, we actually have a packet that will be coming in the mail. So we do that via mail. So you would actually need to make sure you check your mailbox and make sure the address that's on the entry form is the address that you would want to be used for the notification of your award status.
Okay, sounds great. We'll take our next question. What typically are the most applied for categories?
That is a great question. I'm trying to see if any of my panelists want to get into that. Adam, would you want to take that?
In my experience I've had in the past, website is generally has quite a few entries, and for a couple of years it was broken into multiple judging groups. I don't remember what other categories had multiple groups, but newsletters is usually fairly large. That's another one that I've participated in before, and I don't remember.
Yeah, I think also, and this is Molly, also we've had special events can sometimes be one of our larger categories. And I also had mentioned too, last year we were surprised to see that video has, that category has only been involved, listed, I think this will be its 3rd year, and that's been another category that's been growing over the years.
Yeah, I guess brochures is a large one also.
Yeah, I showed last year our largest ones were website, promotional campaign, video, brochure, and holiday piece. And then our smallest were advertising, annual report, media relations, and trade show marketing.
Okay, great. That's the next question. The next question, how should we package trade show exhibit materials? For example, booth designs or other large pieces that we used in our booth.
That is a great question, and thank you for asking that, because we didn't exactly address that. Some of the submissions, and I'm sure some of you are thinking trade show, booths, another thing we get is like an event. Let's say you're celebrating a firm anniversary. How do you capture that? Of course, you may have had an invitation, and that may have been via email, or it may have been an actual printed invitation that you mailed out, but you want to kind of capture the whole essence of the event. What you're going to have to use is photography. I always try to tell people to err on the side of too much versus not enough, and by that I just mean take pictures of as many, or submit as many pictures as you can that will kind of give jurors a good visual on the communication piece or about the event. So in the trade show or the trade booth situation, I would definitely make sure you include photos of the booth. You also may want to include samples of handouts, giveaways that you may have done, any type of collateral material that you, handouts, anything like that that you used at the trade show would be very helpful. Another idea might be if it happens to be an event that may not be very familiar nationally, or that the jurors may not be aware of, you may want to include some information about the actual trade show itself, just to give them an idea of, like, you know, trade show had an audience of 5,000, it's a 3-day event, typically attracting, you know, just to give the jurors as much information as possible so they can understand what they're looking at. And the other important thing to think about is, remember, the judges are comparing your entry against other entries, so you just want to make sure you include things that will make your entry stand out.
Molly, if I could add to that, this is Brittany.
Sure.
We submitted Turner submitted an entry for trade shows, for a trade show that we hosted, so it was a very significant event. And what we did was we include, just to reiterate your point, we submitted images of everything from the key cards all the way up to the booth. So the more pictures that you can get into your submission so that everyone can kind of visualize themselves in your trade show booth, and give them details, it's very helpful to the judges.
Yes, definitely. Do we have any more questions, Natasha?
I'll take our next question. Yep. Specifically, is there a size requirement for the binders?
That's a great question. Not specifically. We like to try and keep them to 1 inch, but obviously if you have a big book, a big poster, we'll take the larger binders. We try to keep them at the 8.5 by 11, of course, but sometimes they need to be a little thicker, and that's not an issue. Another question that comes up often is, what do you do with all these binders? Please don't worry, we recycle the binders, and we actually have local schools that we have arranged with prior to the judging event to make sure that they go to, you know, they're used again. We recycle them. We definitely do not throw the binders away, so just wanted to make sure everybody did that as well.
Great, thanks, Molly. We'll take our next question. What submittal details are most likely to catch or impress the jurors' eyes?
Ooh, Michael, do you want to take that one?
I think one of the things is very good metrics on your results is something that generally the juries like. You know, the more specific you can be on your results and how you've accomplished your goals, you know, I think that's something, because in the end, it's a marketing awards program and not a graphic design program. So you have to have the brains and the beauty to go together.
That's
Sounds
well
great.
put,
We'll
Michael.
take our next question. Okay. I will be submitting a promotional campaign that was sent in an e-blast, and the campaign had 8 pieces. Do I have to print all 8 pieces of the e-blast?
I'm going to answer that, and I'm going to say yes. Particularly with campaigns, because you're showing something that took place over a course of time, whether it was via email or snail mail, you are going to want to show each piece so that the jurors can see the theme and see how it's tied together. I'll let Bernice, Michael, Adam, Dawn, Jana, if you guys want to address it too.
This is Bernice. One of the things that I find very compelling about the judging day, we had hosted the judging day, and it was the first time we had actually hosted it in New York. And you have to imagine that these jurors are in there all day long, and they really do read every single one of those entries, and they really go through each one in very high level detail. And so the more that you have that can really make you stand out, the better.
Okay, great. We'll take our next question. How do we submit a video file that was posted on a website if the submission is in print format?
That's a good question. I'm going to answer it as best I can. I may need this person to just email me directly, because one thing that we need to point out as well is, as many of you are aware, there are some entries that are going to qualify for more than one category, and you have to use your best judgment to determine which category you feel the entry would work best in. There are just definitely some isolated cases where we have an entry that could technically go in either category. If you're submitting a video outside of the video category, let's say you're submitting the video in advertising, I would still, if you have any way that you can do a printout and you want it judged as a video, I would submit it as a video. You're probably going to have a better chance of winning in the video category. There are, I know, some unique situations where you're like, no, it really was, I want to submit this as an internal communications piece. That's what it was for. It just happens to be in a video format. We would still allow that to be shown in the video format in the internal communications piece. As this program has, evolved over the last 37 years, we started out with having maybe one electronic component, as little as 8 years ago, and now almost all the categories could technically go either way. And I know it gets confusing, but the best thing to do is actually email me directly, molly@smps.org, and I'll just have to listen to your question and get a little bit more detail about your entry to resolve that.
And on the technical side of that, to put it onto a CD in your submittal package in order to get it there for the judges to be able to view it. We'll put it into a computer in our judging room to be able to watch it. So.
Yes, thank you, Adam.
And I was going to say one other thing is that obviously we've experienced in the last few years, as the technology has evolved, there's new forms of marketing communications, and that's kind of been one of the challenges that we've had to address, is as somebody explores a new frontier, really how to classify it. So, that again, you call up the national office, and they'll evaluate it and give you the recommendation.
Okay, we have another detailed question here about a category. For the annual report category, can it be an annual report for a multi-year program on behalf of a client instead of for a company?
I'm going to say yes. This is Molly. I believe that is not a problem. We have, in case anyone does have this question, graphic or design houses are allowed to enter pieces or communication pieces that they have created. Obviously, we like to suggest they get the permission of the firm that they did the work for, but if it is an annual report and they'd like to submit it on behalf of a client, they're welcome to do so, but we definitely encourage them to make sure they have permission from the client to do so.
Great, thanks, Molly. Another question. SMPS is AEC kind of specific, but are all professional services industries welcome to submit an entry?
That's another great question. We have in the past had non-AEC firms enter that are professional services. Sometimes we've actually had associations, industry association peer organizations enter their communication pieces, and they are, some have won in the past. We basically, we just have to make sure everybody understands that this is a specific, AEC marketing competition. This is who it's marketed towards. So the majority of the entries that they're going up against will be that type of, those types of industries. But I can't say that we haven't had some win in the past.
Okay, great. We'll take our next question. We've had trouble in the past determining the most appropriate category for an entry because our newsletter goes to both an internal and an external audience. Is there a better category to submit it to?
That's a good question. I'll give that to my past jurors.
This is Adam. I'll weigh in on that a little bit. In my opinion, and if you're doing an external newsletter in general, it's also going to go to your internal staff, whether it goes directly to them or they have the opportunity to see it. So I would enter that in an external category. Internal is for a newsletter that is specifically designed only to be viewed internally. So if that helps a little bit to decide, anything that was meant for anybody outside of your office, whether you're internal or external people see it, I would go with the external.
I would agree.
Great, thank you. We have a couple more questions at this time. If my firm has multiple city locations, can we combine our submission into one so that we get the multiple entry discount?
Yes. Yep. And we encourage people to take advantage of that. Just real quick, this is Molly. For those of you that do have firms that are across the country or maybe just multiple regional offices, please feel free to do so. It's just going to take one champion to organize the effort, but you definitely would be able to take advantage of the multi-entry discount. But we would like you to have all those entries in one submission, meaning they would all need to be on a one entry form. So we just need one person pulling that all together and sending it, but as long as you have on the entry form which firm or which specific office each entry is for, so that the notification letters get to the right person or to the right contact at the firm.
Great, thanks, Molly. We have one more question. Will we see our scores?
Yes. We will be sending the evaluation form, which is new this year. It's actually a 4-page entry form, or excuse me, evaluation form, and we will be submitting that with the notification letters to everyone who has entered.
Great. We'll take our next question. If a project has been submitted previously, but new additional results and data are now available, can it be resubmitted?
Yes, as long as it's within the time frame, and that is correct. I think I saw a question, someone had a question. Is the time frame really almost, it's 2 years. It's basically from January 2012 through December of 2013. One thing that we just stress that people make sure that they have before they consider entering is results. The reason we have the time frame, some people will call and say, I just published a book, and they'll be calling me at the end of January or the end of February, can I enter it? We say no, because there's no way you would have a chance to see your metrics or see your results from your efforts. Excuse me, just to be safe, we try to make sure that everyone gives themselves enough time to record those, get those metrics.
Great. And it looks like we're all caught up with our questions at this time. Do we have any closing remarks, Molly?
No, I just want to thank everyone for their time today. I have on the screen now, if anyone has any questions they didn't get to or we didn't answer through this presentation, please feel free to either give me a call directly or also feel free to email me, and I would be happy to talk with you about your entry, also help you decide if you have something and you're wondering whether or not it qualifies or if what category it should go in. I would be more than happy to help you with your questions. So with that, I thank everyone for joining us today, and best of luck.
Yibbity, yibbity, go, folks.